there, David here. We are talking about the book of 1 Samuel right now. We are in chapter 15 of 1 Samuel. Talking about God rejecting Saul as king. At this point, the ability for Saul to carry about the will of God is proven to not, he can't do it. I think Saul was a man after God's own heart for like 8 days, maybe. He didn't, he tried, but he didn't make it. And the biggest problem was he tried to do something against God's command. He disobeyed the command of God, which is very important. The holiness that God puts on, the way sacrifices are supposed to be done, how they are supposed to be done through the priests and all that, he completely subverted that. And he thought, I can do this. I'm the king. I can do whatever I want now. And that was the problem. He couldn't do whatever he wanted to anymore than Christians in leadership positions should be saying that themselves. Like, I'm high up in the church or whatever. I should be allowed to do whatever. And that's not true. It's not the way God sets it up. He gives us specific roles and rules and laws to follow, including ways that we handle sacrificing and things that we do in the church and then in the world and how we're supposed to behave. And Saul, didn't do what he was supposed to do. Samuel confronts Saul, and then he, of course, does what God had told Saul to do, which was to wipe out the Amalekites, all of them. Amalekites come back later, causing a great deal of trouble. There's actually a pretty cool story about that, actually. The book of Esther, you have Haman, who is the bad guy in Esther. He's basically trying to destroy all the Jews. That's something pretty relevant even today, unfortunately. There's always people out there that are trying to destroy all the Jews. And Haman was one of them. And Haman is a descendant of the Amalekites. If Saul had done what he was supposed to do, we wouldn't have had any of that trouble in the book of Esther, in that time period. And there's another person that David later spares and actually ends up becoming an ancestor to Mordecai, who is the protagonist in the story of Esther. So that's pretty interesting. Anyway, chapter 16. God chooses David to be king. God tells Samuel to go get a new king over Israel, which would be a little hard for Samuel because he's like, well, wait, Saul's still alive. If he hears about this, wouldn't I? Yeah. So he goes and tells him to go get a new king, and David is the one that is picked out of all of the brothers of Jesse and all of that. And remember that Ruth is his grandmother. So it's pretty interesting family tree there. Saul, of course, is distressed. He's having a lot of trouble. So David is called to the court of Saul to just play music, because even as a young man, as a shepherd boy, fighting lions and tigers and bears, all that stuff. Anyway, they're all wild animals out there in the desert. Pretty crazy. We knew that already. Chapter 17 is the greatest chapter for Samuel in my mind. Is David fighting Goliath. I love this chapter. You just see the fear of Saul and all of Israel. And you see David, the youngest of his 8 brothers, coming to fight for the Lord, for Israel. And it's just an amazing thing. David, of course, is misunderstood by his brothers. But he goes to prepare to fight Goliath. He goes and picks up just enough stones to fight Goliath and his brothers. So it's interesting. You find out that Goliath has brothers, and David picked up just enough stones to fight all of them if he had to. He was ready. Now, he, of course, then defeats Goliath, cuts off his head and all of that. Chapter 18, there is additional conflict between Saul and David. I did kind of skip over a little bit. Back in chapter 15, there was a whole, or 14, 15 or 14? In 14, and that was the thing with Jonathan and Saul. We did chapter 14 already. But if you go back and read that, you should read all of this stuff deeper, because this is just a cursory overview, obviously, of the text as we read through it. And Samuel 18, there's a lot of conflict between Saul and David, and I say conflict because Saul's throwing spears at David's head. Anyway, David does agree to marry Michal, the daughter of Saul, or Michal, not sure how you pronounce it, but anyway, and I love that whole story. But anyway, he does marry into the family. At any rate, then we will get into chapter 19 and David fleeing from Saul in the next one. Study your word. Keep studying his word, God's word, and bless you. Hope you have a great day, and keep praying for the peace of Israel.